Welcome back to Media 7. We're discussing sports rights and wrongs with TVNZ's Peter Parasini, the Sunday Star Times' Tim Hunter and TV producer Phil Smith. We had hoped to talk to Sky's CEO John Follett, who's reacted angrily to the proposals of the two main free-to-air broadcasters, but he refused to appear on this program. He complained in his turn that TVNZ has not made its new digital channels available for transmission on Sky. It is not because the carriage of TVNZ7 would slow the conversion to digital. Sky viewers have already converted. It is not because this is not what a public broadcaster should do. All the BBC Freeview signals are carried by B Sky B. TVNZ7 is being used as an attack on Sky as well as Sky subscribers for having the temerity to pay for an alternative to state broadcasting. Well, he didn't mince his words, Tim. Has John Follett got a right to be as angry as he seems to be, or is this just more theatre?
Well, there's a bit of theatre in it, but yes, I think he does have a right to be that angry. What's being proposed here is a serious threat to Sky's entire business model. And let's not forget that Sky has spent a great length of time, a great deal of money, building up its ability to broadcast digitally over satellite and to acquire the rights that it sells to its customers. That, if the kind of thing that TVNZ is proposing was actually done, then it would decimate Sky's entire reason for being at a stroke and take away the rights of the rugby union and Sky and its shareholders and Sky's customers. For what?
Well, TVNZ would say to you that Sky is getting the free-to-air channels. It's a major part of Sky's offering, and if you look at the statistics, people do use the Sky box to watch the free-to-air channels. It's gaining subscription revenue from that, and it's using that to bid against the free-to-air channels for new program acquisitions.
Except you can get the free-to-air channels on Sky very cheaply. You don't have to subscribe to Sky to get the free-to-air channels via the digital network. So I don't think that's really a fair argument.
And I don't think it's fair to say that Sky's business would be decimated. B Sky B and Foxtel are both very successful broadcasters, paid broadcasters in the UK and Australia, and very profitable, and they have to put some of their material on free-to-air. Well, in Australia they do with the anti-siphoning laws. And Freeview in the UK is obviously a very dominant player, and Sky puts their material on there. So in terms of Sky's business model, I feel that they would survive if some of their content was actually put out in a free-to-air environment. Of course, they're doing that at the moment by using Prime, and that opens up a whole new argument about a pay channel also having a free-to-air channel, and I think that's a very big issue. But overall, I think Sky, I agree with Peter, very good company, very successful, probably one of our most successful in the last decade, but this game is only just beginning, and I think it's fascinating because it's like there's been an America's Cup race, but only one boat in it. Now the other two have arrived.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, Phil. Do you think that we're already seeing some fruit of competition now that Freeview, even in its fledgling state, is here?
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Freeview is brilliant because 40% of the UK has Freeview. Freeview is here to stay, and Sky has realised they're now in a fight. And I think John Follett's been waiting for it, and he's a very good tactician and strategist, but so is Rick Ellis, and so is Brent Harmon. These three men have come to the table now, and we're going to see a great battle over the next 18 months.
Well, for instance, I wonder whether we'd be seeing HD broadcast from Sky, which we'll get in July, if Freeview hadn't already launched free-to-air high-definition TV.
Yeah, you know what, I don't think the public are going to be so worried about HD. I think the content is going to be the first thing they're going to be concerned about. HD will be a secondary issue in the future, but I think immediately TV3 has realised that they have a great asset in their broadcast of their channel, so they're now talking to both parties, because TV3's being reasonably mature in this, and that they realise they can be on both Sky and they can be on Freeview, which is what happens in the UK on their Freeview box. You know, you see all sorts of broadcasts on multiple channels, so Three will be looking to do that with their HD content.
Do you think New Zealanders have just absorbed the idea that major sporting events, if you want to see them live, they're on, they actually are on pay TV?
Yeah, but it's a bit like having one phone company 15 years ago. I think when you look back at this debate in 15 years' time, there will be material everywhere for everyone. And the thing is that Sky realises that there are two platforms now, and there is a genuine competitor. So, yeah, I think it's a very healthy situation.
Just on the sports rights issue, Russell, I mean, Sky puts it about that if free-to-air TV were to get some of the sports back on free-to-air, that it would decimate sports. That's absolute rubbish. That's not the case in the UK, it's not the case in Australia, and in fact in Australia, the Australian Rugby Union wants more rugby on free-to-air television because it realises it needs to grow the market for the game. And here in New Zealand, we have a classic case with Netball New Zealand. They've made a strategic call that the ANZ Championship, the Trans-Tasman competition, should be on Sky, which is fantastic, and they have this new competition on Sky, but for test matches, they've made a strategic call that it's in the long-term interests of their sport to have it on free-to-air TV, and TVNZ has those rights.
Because I don't think anyone would deny that if the netball was on pay TV, its audience would, say, halve?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, Netball New Zealand could probably have extracted more dollars out of Sky if they'd bundled the test matches with the ANZ Championship together and sold them to Sky. But they've, as I said, made a strategic call that's better for their sponsors, it's better for the promotion of the game, better for attracting kids into the sport to have it on free-to-air TV. Now, we're not quite sure what the answer is around getting iconic sports events back on free-to-air TV. There are a number of ways to do it. Some people have anti-siphoning legislation, others in Europe have unbundling rules which require a sports body not to sell the whole lot to one broadcaster. Some people have suggested that maybe we should strengthen our competition
All of which sound maybe a little more likely than your big structural separation proposal.
The structural separation issue has also been misrepresented, I feel. The structural separation issue is to deal with network issues, which is part of the regulations review. And there's one question in the consultation document which asks the industry whether having open access regulation is a good thing. And we've said, well, maybe another way to skin that cat is to have structural separation of what you call vertically integrated businesses.
And I'm sure that the MCH are going to go through that with their customary thoroughness.
But,
Tim, if I could move on to Tim, as I noted in the introduction, Sky, for the first time, has the Olympics. I wonder, though, when they're going to have to swallow hard and go on to Freeview, make a proper public offering of that Olympic coverage.
For them, it's an entirely business proposition, and to me, I find this whole debate is missing a certain point, which is that TVNZ and MediaWorks are businesses. TVNZ's submission is full of umpteen references to itself as a public service broadcaster. It's not a public service broadcaster; it's a commercial business. And in that sense, it's just failed to compete properly with Sky and is losing. The Rugby Union has the choice of whether to sell its rights to Sky or to say, well, we want to be free-to-air because it's better for the game, and they've chosen to go with Sky. What TVNZ is proposing is to take that choice away from the Rugby Union and say, it's the government's choice, and we're not going to let the Rugby Union decide on the future of the game anymore. And to me, that's just
Phil, what do you mean?
Well, I think, there's been what you call light touch regulation over the past decade, so it hasn't been particularly hard for Sky to succeed. I think what we want to see in New Zealand well, it hasn't, has it? Let's face it.
Although it did go a good decade in the red.
Yes, I know, but what I'm saying is...
It's all very well to complain now, it's making money.
What I say about Succeed is they've got a snowball effect in terms of subscribers. They get one sport, they get another, and now they've got a critical mass. But I think the overall debate is one about regulation, and I think an Office of Communication is something that we're going to have to look at. Someone who protects these digital airwaves. You can't have one company owning every radio station in New Zealand. You have to have some sort of regulation, and I think
there is competition in broadcasting.
That's right.
You've got Freeview and you've got Sky and you've got free-to-air terrestrial.
What would your rule number one be, Phil?
What would my rule number one be?
Yeah. What would you do to fix this? Assuming there's a problem, how would you fix it?
Well, I think one of the things that Peter suggested was that, the unbundling of rights is that some have to go free-to-air and some have to go on pay. The fact that a pay channel can own a free-to-air channel is another issue. I think they'd look at that.
Isn't this just going to happen anyway? If you look at the South Africans have sold their domestic rugby to a local broadcaster. I suspect that people have paid too much for the sports rights they've got already. Is this not going to just resolve itself?
I think it will, and I think it's going to be a fantastic debate, but there needs to be rules. It's like playing rugby without rules. There needs to be someone in there who's got a major understanding. I think even if you look at the way the Charter's been handled by the government, I don't think they have been particularly responsible in ensuring that the Charter's been imposed. I think it's been difficult for TVNZ because the ministry hasn't always been vigilant. So I think you need to bring in an Ofcom that can monitor our digital spectrum on behalf of for the consumer and create a competitive environment. That's all I want for my kids. I don't want my kids to be paying $200 for sports rights in the future without a competitive environment. I think as a business writer, that's what you should be encouraging. I mean, your newspaper is better now since the Sunday Herald launched. You've got to admit that.
Competition is good, and there is competition in broadcasting. And, I don't subscribe to Sky because I'm one of the people who doesn't care enough, I guess, about watching rugby on television to fork out the money. But what Sky's done is basically it's cut the market into two: the people who will pay for it and the people who won't. And so we're going to
elite sports rights.
We're talking about regulating.
So rich kids in the future will watch sport, and poor kids won't.
There's a generation of New Zealand kids, the games of rugby's gone professional in 95, 96. There is a generation of New Zealand kids right now who have never seen a test match live on television.
We actually have to wrap up now, and that's quite a sonorous note to finish on. I'm just thinking of Ofcom and another 150 jobs in Wellington, actually. After the break, Simon Pound finds sports of a sort on TV direct from the suburbs.